Welcome to Google Ads Unleashed, the podcast that helps you harness the power of Google Ads. And now your host, Jeremy Young.
The reality is, although I run Google Ads on a daily basis for loads of businesses, Google Ads isn't for everyone, and there's a significant portion of you listening who have come to this podcast in the hopes of finding answers. And the reality is that your ad accounts will never work. It's not because of poor account management or anything that you've done. It's simply because of conditions that are outside of the realm of what you can change. And this episode talks about that as well, because I have a policy of honesty and will always say what works, what doesn't work, and this is what this episode is about. Welcome back to Google Ads Unleashed. Hope everyone is doing fabulously this Monday. I believe it is already July when I've recorded this. It's been a few weeks in advance because our producer has gotten married. So massive congratulations to her. I just want to throw that out. Because she will be editing this and hearing this. And yeah, but despite of this very jolly start, this is going to be a bit more of a somber episode, because sometimes it's quite disappointing to learn that something simply doesn't work, doesn't matter how hard you try. And the first thing that is an indicator of when it's okay to walk away from this channel is that there is simply no search demand. So Google is fundamentally a demand capture channel, okay? It works by connecting businesses with people who already search for what they are selling, okay? If there's no meaningful search volume for this product because it's generally novel or too niche or described in terms that nobody actually searches for, then there is no demand to capture. No amount of budget or optimization creates intent that doesn't exist, okay? So absence of demand is usually already an indicator that you should not be starting with Google. Oftentimes, you have also the case that you may have a problem that solves an issue, right? But people don't know they have that issue, or they don't know that that product solves the problem that they have, okay? So a very good example of this, for instance, many moons ago, I had a client who sold supplements for dogs that help them with their joints, okay? So people were searching for stuff such as, my dog is limping, or my dog takes ages to get up, and so on, how can I help him, etc. So they knew they had the problem, the dog was aching, but they didn't know that there was a product that could potentially help their dog, okay? So the difficulty is already really high. I've talked about this many times. I call this informational search terms versus transactional search terms. So transactional would be buy dog food, dog bone supplement or something like that. Transactional and informational would be my dog is limping, what do I do, or something, okay? And the issue here is you usually convert this with informational pages, sales pages, or advertorials. I've already talked about that, but starting with advertorials is really tricky and really high level stuff that I would only recommend further down the line. So if you are thinking about starting Google and your first sort of challenge would be to master advertorials, I would look elsewhere first for meta ads, for whatever. And quite frankly, if you're at the start, I would never start with Google anyway, okay? So regardless of search volume, regardless of what kind of people search for your stuff and how they search for your stuff to find your product or your service, I would never ever start with Google unless there's a very good reason for it. And the reason for that is I find it's much easier to get a product market fit established if you use a push channel, okay? Push channels are much better at doing so. And that's why I would start with that. Then the second thing that I would look into, and why your Google ads don't work and potentially could not be fixed, is that your offer isn't competitive enough. This is related to an issue that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but if a business is selling products that are available from, for instance, well-known retailers or Amazon or whatever, that offer lower price, a faster shipping, better return policies, Google will surface this comparison instantly. A user searches, sees multiple options, and will always click the competitor because they may be cheaper, they have better conditions. And oftentimes you may pay for impressions and clicks here and get nothing in return because Google rewards competitive offers. The best price, the best offer, the best shipping speed, the most trust signals, the best review, all of these affect whether a click converts, okay? If the offer is structurally uncompetitive and can't be changed, the channel will always keep underperforming. We've recently had this with a client who came to us who sold office chairs, and the office chair space is insanely crowded, and we just could not fathom a way how we could tie a good offer together that was better than the competitors. The competitors were more advanced, had more social proof, had faster shipping, better return policies, everything was better. So there was nothing we could do, really. So in that regard, the job of a Google Ads expert very much becomes to try and change that offer, but sometimes that's not doable due to the next issue, and that is your margins aren't competitive enough, okay? Or the margins that you have simply don't support it. And this is a very common structural issue why Google Ads fail, okay? If a product, let's say, just carries a 10% margin, and the category of CPC of that product is a realistic, CPA of £30, let's say, the maths are the math, right? And that's something that I say very often. Oftentimes you have search demand, good click-through rate, CPCs are acceptable, conversion rate's good, and you still are not profitable. So the math doesn't work regardless of how good and how well the account is run. Google is essentially a cost per click channel. It's called PPC marketing, pay per click marketing, right? You pay to compete in an auction, and that cost has to be absorbed into the margin before any profit can be made. And businesses with lower margins or heavily commoditized products or price points that are below roughly, I'd say £30, £20 in competitive categories often really struggle in this position. So which goes back to the push channel thing. You're less comparable with push channels, you are more comparable on Google, right? I'm trying to think of a concept right now. I'm going to have to Google this for a second. Basically, marketing has two purposes, all right? To, first of all, create physical availability, which is simply the fact, I can't remember which, it's a very good book that this is from, but either way, the author who came up with this principle has basically built a framework or describes a framework what the job of marketing is. And the first job of marketing is to be building physical availability. So for instance, just being available is a great form of marketing, right? So if your product is stocked in stores and widely available, it's more easy to buy. Coke is such a principle, right? So Coke is everywhere, which is why it sells well, right? At the same time, there's probably supermarkets around your, around the corner from you where you purchase regularly. Just because a 7-Eleven is around the corner from you doesn't mean you're a big 7-Eleven fan. It's just the fact that it's there creates that physical availability, and that's why you shop there, right? On the other hand, the job of marketing is to build also mental availability. So if I were to ask you, what is the name a luxury watch? Straight away the answer would be Rolex, right? And this is usually the job of like YouTube ads, meta ads, and so on, to build that mental availability that when people think of a certain product, that yours comes to mind, and also is the first one to be recognized when they even search for you non-brand on Google or branded on Google, okay? And Google's job is to build that physical availability, and physical availability competes on completely different principles than the mental availability part, right? With mental availability, you're trying to instill beliefs, you're trying to overcome certain how should I say, certain hesitations that someone has, you're trying to communicate your values, etc. With physical availability, you compete on price, and if your margins simply don't support that, then you are going to be toast, and then Google Ads is not for you, okay? Something that's probably the most easy to fix, though, is that, and this is probably my last point, is your website. So it doesn't matter how good of a product you have, how great your account is set up, how good search terms and the right audience you capture. If your website doesn't convert, then you are sending traffic to a website, let's say with a 0.3 conversion rate, and it's just like filling a leaky bucket. No amount of additional water, i.e. budget, fixes that underlying problem. So if the landing page is slow, if the trust signals are weak, if the product doesn't actually if the product page doesn't convince you, if the checkout is friction heavy, if the product photography is bad, Google Ads will amplify those problems and not mask them. And the uncomfortable truth is that some businesses need to fix the site before they should be running any paid search. Okay, a benchmark that's really well worth sharing: a well-optimized e-com store should be converting at about 2 to 3% above or above for all paid traffic. Anything below that, it depends of course on price point and other factors, is a signal that the problem isn't the ads and that something needs to be done there. So there it is. Step away from Google if you tried everything, and if any of this applies, no search volume or only transactional searches. If it's the first channel you're trying, don't do that as the first channel. If your website's crap, fix that. If your offer's crap, fix that. If your margins don't support it, well, oftentimes unfixable. Some of these are fixable, some of them are not. You have to decide. Let me know which ones you think are easy ones to fix. And if you need a hand at analyzing this, just send me a message, jeremy@younganddigital.marketing, Jeremy on Google Ads and LinkedIn. You can also book a meeting with me, Jeremy, on the website, younganddigital.marketing. Just head there, go to my Calendly and pick an appointment. I'd love to chat to you. Until then, I'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for listening to Google Ads Unleashed. To connect with Jeremy, check him out online at www.younganddigital.marketing. We'll see you next time.